Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are not just analyzing a topic, we are transporting ourselves to a very specific intersection of geography and economics.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
I want you to close your eyes for a second. We are going to Digbeth, Birmingham. It's a Tuesday morning, February 2026.
Very specific. I can almost smell the rain on the pavement and probably the coffee.
Exactly. For anyone who hasn't walked down Digbeth High Street lately, you really have to picture the vibe.
It's that quintessential creative corridor energy, isn't it?
It is. You have these beautiful, gritty Victorian warehouses. They used to store, I don't know, industrial parts. Now they store ambition.
Ambition and a lot of MacBooks.
A lot of MacBooks. They've been converted into startup incubators, exposed brick, industrial chic, lots of steel and glass. It looks incredibly cool.
It's the kind of place where the aesthetic is starving artist, but the rent is, well, it's decidedly venture capitalists.
Precisely. And here's a scene. You walk into one of these artisan coffee shops, the kind where they weigh the beans before grinding them.
Oh, I know the type.
And you see the founders. They are nursing what I can only assume is their third flat white of the morning.
At least.
But they aren't looking at the exposed brick or the art on the walls. They are staring at their laptops. Specifically, they are staring at spreadsheets. And they look tired.
That is a very distinct look.
Yeah.
It is the look of a spreadsheet that, refuses to balance no matter how many times you refresh the pivot table.
It is exactly that look. It's this tension between the romance of startup life, the cool office, the vibe, the whole we're changing the world narrative,
Right.
and the brutal financial reality that is just hitting them in the face. And today, we're unpacking exactly what that reality is.
Because something shifted, didn't it, in the UK economy? Something that turned the difficulty setting on running a business from, say, hard to expert.
That's a great way to put it. And it's important to note this isn't just a general startups are hard story.
No, startups have always been hard. That's the baseline.
Yeah.
But this is, it's localized to a very specific economic moment in the UK.
We're looking at a post-April 2025 landscape.
Exactly. The rules of the game changed. And I think a lot of people are still playing by the old rule book and wondering why they are losing so badly.
Right. The catalyst. April 2025. This was the moment the ground moved. And we need to get into the weeds here because the headlines were one thing, but the reality for that founder in Digbeth is something else entirely.
It really was a pivot point.
Yeah.
If you look at the regulatory changes that came into effect then, you can see why those founders are sweating over their spreadsheets.
So what was the big one?
The headline data point, the one everyone talked about on the news, was the employer national insurance contributions. They jumped from 13.8% to 15%.
Okay. Which on its own sounds like, okay, 1.2%. It's an increase. Nobody likes a tax hike. But is it a killer? Is that enough to make a founder stare blankly into a coffee cup for an hour?
Probably not. If it were just the percentage, maybe you could absorb that. You find an efficiency somewhere or you put your prices up a tiny bit.
But it wasn't just the rate.
No, it was the double whammy. It was the secondary threshold, which is the point at which employers actually start paying that tax that just dropped like a stone.
Okay, how far?
It went from £9,100 all the way down to £5,000 annually.
Okay, let's unpack this because secondary threshold sounds like bureaucratic noise. It sounds like something your accountant worries about so you don't have to, but I know this hits the bank account hard.
It does.
What does that actually mean for the person hiring?
It means the entire math of employment fundamentally shifted. Think about it this way. Previously, you had a buffer. You had nearly £10,000 of salary before the tax man started asking for his share of the employer contribution.
Right, a nice cushion.
Now, that buffer is effectively gone. It's barely a buffer at all. So before you even pay a single pound in wages that matters to the employee's lifestyle, that threshold change alone means you are paying an extra £937.80 per employee per year.
Just gone.
Straight off the bottom line.
That is almost £1,000 per person just for the privilege of employing them before we even get to the 15% rate itself.
Exactly. And that is per employee. So if you have 10 employees, that is nearly 10 grand just gone, vanishing into the ether of compliance costs with zero benefit to the productivity of your company.
And that's before we talk about the national living wage.
Correct. Which also rose to £12.21 per hour. Now, obviously, we want people to earn a living wage that is, a social good.
Of course.
But from the perspective of a pre-revenue or early-stage startup, you have a higher floor for wages, a significantly lower threshold for when taxes kick in, and a higher tax rate when they do. It's a perfect storm for payroll.
So, the thesis of our deep dive today is that this isn't just about hiring. It's not about how do I find good people. It's about survival. The sources we have been looking at call this a financial IQ test for founders.
That is a great way to frame it. The old way, hire locally, build a big team in a cool office is, well, it's failing the test.
And it seems like some founders are passing this test by looking south, way south. We are talking about South Africa.
Right.
And specifically, we are going to look at a managed agency model called VAConnect.
Pronounced VAConnect, yes.
We are going to explore how this isn't just outsourcing in the traditional sense, which I think carries a lot of baggage, but something our sources are calling geographic arbitrage.
It is a fascinating shift. But before we get to the solution, I think we need to stay in the pain a little longer.
Oh, for sure.
We really need to understand the hidden tax on UK employment. Because I think a lot of people, even smart founders, they get fooled by the base salary number.
Right.
They see a number on a job listing and think, okay, that's what this costs.
Oh, absolutely. It's the sticker price versus the out-the-door price. It's like buying a concert ticket where the face value is £50, but after service fees, facility fees, and print-at-home fees, you're suddenly paying £90.
That is the perfect analogy. So let's look at the anatomy of a salary in Birmingham. Let's say you need a basic admin hire, an executive assistant or an office manager, just someone to keep the chaos at bay.
The chaos coordinator.
Right. If you look at Glassdoor data for Birmingham from August 2025, the average base salary for that kind of role is roughly $33,939.
Which, honestly, sounds reasonable. It's not London prices. If I'm a founder, I'm thinking, okay, 34K, that's roughly £2,800 a month. I can scrape that together.
That is the trap. That number is deceptive. One of our sources calls it a poker game where the house always wins. Because once the UK employment law machinery gets involved, £33,939 is just the opening bid. It's the ante.
So let's add it up line by line. We've got that employer national insurance we just mentioned.
Right. With the new 15% rate on everything above £5,000, that adds about £4,341 annually.
So you're already up to nearly 39K.
Just like that.
Then you've got the pension. You can't just opt out of that anymore, can you?
No. Auto-enrollment is mandatory. Minimum 5% employer contribution. That's another $1,697.
Wow.
And remember, that is the minimum. In a competitive market like Birmingham, if you want good talent, you might be matching higher. But let's stick to the minimum for now.
Okay, so we're at over £40 already. What about holiday pay?
You have to account for it. 28 days is the statutory minimum in the UK. That includes bank holidays. That's valued at around $2,719 for.
Now, you might say, well, I pay that as part of the salary. But structurally, you are paying for non-productive time.
That's a harsh way to look at holidays.
It is, but from a cash flow perspective, it's true. You are paying for a month of work that doesn't happen.
That's fair. And then there's the stuff you hope you don't need, but you have to budget for. Sick pay, recruitment fees.
Recruitment is the silent killer, isn't it?
It really is. If you use an agency, you are looking at 15–20% of the first year's salary up front.
Ouch.
That's thousands of pounds out the door before the employee is even sat down. And if you do it yourself, it's hours and hours of your time writing ads, sifting through CVs, interviewing. Our sources estimate a combined buffer for sick pay and recruitment of somewhere between £4,000 to £6,000 in the first year.
So the bucket is getting very full, but we haven't even given this person a place to sit yet.
Not yet.
We need to talk about real estate. We mentioned those cool exposed brick warehouses in Digbeth. They are not free. And I assume the landlord isn't accepting startup equity as payment.
Far from it. Commercial real estate in Digbeth has been climbing. It's a victim of its own success, really. Prime office rents hit £45.50 per square foot in Q2 of 2025.
£45 a foot. That is wildly expensive.
It adds up fast. Let's look at a specific example from the Data Bradford Court. A historic building, very nice. A small suite there, maybe 100 to 150 square feet.
So basically enough room for a desk, a chair, and maybe a potted plant.
Maybe. That costs about £6,000 annually.
$6,000 just for the floor space. Plus you need to buy them a computer, software licenses, a desk, a decent chair so they don't sue you for back problems.
What, another £2,000 in for infrastructure, at least. A laptop, a monitor, Office 365, Slack license, Zoom license. It never ever wins.
So what is the grand total? We started with a salary of £34,000. Where do we end up when all the dust settles?
When you sum it all up, the taxes, benefits, space, equipment, recruitment, that £34,000 employee actually costs the startup between 51,896 tools and £55,000 in year one.
Wow. Let's pause on that.
Yeah.
That is shocking. That's a massive overhead.
It is over 50% on top of the salary.
It's eating 40% of the burn rate. If you have raised a small seed round, say 250K, hiring just 2 people locally basically sets a timer on your company's death that is twice as fast as you thought.
And this is the crucial insight. This is why the concept of the lean startup is breaking down in the UK.
How so?
You cannot be lean if you are hiring locally for generalist roles. The fixed costs are just too high. The math doesn't work for a pre-Series A company or even a Series A company that is trying to be disciplined. You are starting the race with a backpack full of rocks.
It really puts those flat whites into perspective. You're just bleeding cash before you've even sold a single product. And this isn't mismanagement. This is just following the rules.
This is just the cost of doing business in the UK in 2026.
So this brings us to the solution part of our story, geography as leverage.
Right. And we need to be specific here. We aren't just talking about offshoring to the cheapest possible location.
Not a race to the bottom.
No. If we were just chasing the lowest dollar, we'd be talking about different regions entirely. We're talking about South Africa.
Why South Africa? I feel like for a long time, the default for this kind of thing was India or the Philippines. That was the standard playbook.
It was. But the playbook has changed because the nature of the work has changed. And South Africa has a few structural advantages that are becoming very apparent to these smart founders.
Okay. Like what?
The first, and arguably the most important, is the time zone magic.
Okay, lay it out for me, because I think people really underestimate how much friction time zones create in a business.
A huge amount. So Cape Town and Johannesburg are on GMT+2.
So very close to London.
Extremely close. In the UK winter, they are 2 hours ahead. In the summer, because of daylight savings differences, they are just 1 hour ahead.
That is huge.
It changes everything. Compare that to the Philippines. If you hire someone there, they are likely, 7 or 8 hours ahead.
Which means if you want them to be online when you are online, they are working a graveyard shift.
Exactly. They are starting work at midnight their time.
Which is just miserable. I don't care who you are, working midnight to 8 a.m. is brutal on the human body and your social life.
Exactly. That leads to burnout, it leads to health issues, and inevitably high turnover. The person quits because they want to see their family or just, see the sun.
Right.
But with South Africa, you have real-time collaboration. Your 9 a.m. stand-up meeting in Birmingham is 11 a.m. in Cape Town. They are fresh, they are in the middle of their day, they've had their coffee, they've cleared their inbox, and they are ready to go.
That is a game changer for collaboration. It means you aren't just sending tasks into a black hole and waiting for them to come back the next morning.
You can actually work with them.
You can jump on a quick call to clarify something.
Exactly. It allows for agility. And then there is the cultural and linguistic alignment. The sources highlight this heavily. There is a strong British colonial influence in the business and education systems there.
Right, so English isn't just a learned language, it's the primary language of business.
Correct. It's not a second language for professional context. It was the operating system. And this leads to what one source calls the nuance check.
The nuance check. That sounds like a specialized tool.
It's a concept. It means there is no confusion over idioms or tone. If a British founder says something is quite good, a South African understands exactly what that means in a British context.
Which usually means it's okay, but could be better, or I'm not impressed, but I'm being polite.
Exactly. That's the one. I've had those moments working with teams elsewhere where interesting is interpreted as good when I really meant this is a complete disaster. Please fix it immediately.
Oh, me too. And in a fast-moving startup, those miscommunications cost so much time. You don't have time to explain your sarcasm. You need someone who just gets it.
You just need them to get it. And then, of course, we have to talk about the money, the economic reality.
The rand to pound exchange rate.
This is where the arbitrage comes in. And it is important to understand comparative advantage here. We are not talking about exploitation. We are talking about purchasing power parity.
Explain that a bit more.
A salary that feels incredibly tight in Birmingham, where you are struggling to pay rent and buy groceries, can be a very comfortable, middle-class, financially secure income in Cape Town.
So it's not about paying pennies, it's about the power of the currency. You can pay someone a wage that allows them to live a good life in their local economy, but because the pound is so strong against the rand, it costs the UK company a fraction.
Precisely. You are paying a wage that is competitive and desirable in the local market. You are becoming a premium employer in Cape Town while being a budget-conscious employer in Birmingham. It's a win-win arbitrage.
Okay, so we have established why South Africa. Now let's talk about how. Because the outline mentions a specific vehicle for this, and that is VAConnect.
VAConnect, yes.
And the distinction here is between a managed agency and just hiring a freelancer. Why not just go on Upwork or Fiverr? I could find people in South Africa on there right now. I could probably hire someone in the next 10 minutes.
You can,
Oh.
and a lot of people do. But the sources are very clear on the risk factors. When you go direct to a freelance platform, you are entering the Wild West.
Okay.
You are dealing with ghosting. You are dealing with massive quality variance.
The "I have a better offer, so I'm leaving today" syndrome, or the classic "my internet is down" excuse for 3 days in a row.
All of that. Freelance platforms often see completion rates around 65, 70%. That's a lot of unfinished work. That's a lot of projects that just stall.
So what's the managed difference?
The managed difference with VAConnect is that they wrap the talent in a layer of infrastructure. They handle the recruitment, the vetting, the backup coverage, and all the HR.
So if your VA gets sick, you aren't just left high and dry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you have a freelancer and they get the flu, your business stops. If you have a managed service, they have a bench. They can slot someone else in. And regarding talent, they claim to filter for the 1% of the 1%. They aren't just taking anyone who applies. They're curating the top tier of talent.
Let's talk about the founder of VAConnect, because her story seems relevant to the culture of the company, Karen.
Yes, Karen. She started this back in 2008 as a company called Lime Tree Consulting and then rebranded to VAConnect in 2014. What's interesting about her profile is that she has what the sources call captain training.
Captain training, like boats. Is she sailing the ship?
It implies a level of discipline, I think, leadership, and a very strong work ethic. It suggests a background where systems and reliability are absolutely paramount. She's a seasoned entrepreneur with a real passion for systems and processes.
So she's a process person.
Very much so. Her mission is stated as being the left and right hand for entrepreneurs.
I like that. It's not just, "I'll do your filing." It's, "I will help you run your life." It's a partnership mentality.
And she has built what the sources call an ecosystem of quality. This is the secret sauce that makes the managed model work. It addresses that big fear. How do I know they are any good?
And they have specific programs to do that.
You do, with names that I think you are going to enjoy.
Oh, I do love good program names. Let's hear them.
First, there is VA Varsity.
VA Varsity. Okay, is that just a PDF they email you? Here's how to use Outlook.
No, it is much more robust than that. It is a Udemy-style internal platform for continuous upskilling. The idea is that the VAs arrive skilled, but they don't stagnate. They keep learning new tools, new software, new soft skills.
Which is huge because technology changes so fast. If you hired someone 3 years ago and they haven't learned anything new, they're basically obsolete. A VA who knew social media in 2022 but doesn't know it in 2026 is, frankly, useless.
Precisely. So VA Varsity ensures they stay current. Then, to address the burnout issue we mentioned earlier, because remote work can be isolating, they have a program called Atomic Energy.
Atomic Energy sounds intense. Is that a nuclear physics course?
It's actually the opposite. Well, it's intense about wellness. It includes diet advice, exercise coaches, and mental mobility training.
Wait, really? The agency provides wellness coaches for the VAs? That sounds expensive. Why would they do that?
They do it because it protects the asset. And I don't mean that in a dehumanizing way. The VA is the engine of the service. If the engine burns out, the car stops.
That makes sense.
Remote work often leads to a sedentary lifestyle, loneliness, and blurred lines between work and home. By proactively managing the physical and mental health of the VAs, they are ensuring longevity and high performance.
That is smart. It's actually very forward-thinking. Most companies just burn through people and hire the next one. This is about retention.
And finally, they have VAPI. That stands for the Two-Way Happiness Program.
VAPI. Okay, what does that do? Is it just a survey?
It tracks the happiness of both the client and the VA.
Oh, that's interesting. Both ways.
It ensures cultural fit and engagement. It's not just, is the client happy? It's, is the VA happy working for this client? Because if the VA isn't happy, if the client is abusive or disorganized or demanding impossible things, the VA won't stay. And churn is the enemy of productivity.
That is a very mature way to look at employment. It's a relationship, not a transaction. If you treat people like machines, they break.
And the result of all this ecosystem, they claim a 98% retention rate over 14 months.
98%. In the BPO or VA world, that is unheard of. The industry standard turnover in call centers and VA agencies is usually 30, 40, sometimes 50% a year.
It is exceptionally high. It suggests that this ecosystem, VA Varsity, Atomic Energy, VPI, is actually working. It's not just marketing fluff, it's operational infrastructure.
All right, let's get down to the brass tacks, the financial showdown. We've got our theoretical startup. Let's call them Brew Tech.
I like it.
They are in Digbeth making, let's say, B2B sauce for craft breweries.
Sure, helping brewers manage their inventory and sales.
Yeah.
A classic Digbeth startup.
Perfect. So, scenario A. They hire a UK executive assistant to help the CEO organize meetings and manage the office. We already did the math on this.
We did. It was roughly $54,787 for the first year, all in.
Now, scenario B. They use VAConnect. How does the cost structure change?
Well, first of all, you're moving from salaries to monthly fees. You are moving from a fixed cost of liability on your books to a variable cost, an expense you can turn on or off.
Give me the numbers.
Basic support starts around 12,000 Rand monthly.
12,000 Rand.
Correct. And so higher end, say 80 hours of support, that's a substantial part-time role, roughly 20 hours a week. You are looking at around 20,000 Rand.
20,000 Rand. Okay, so let's do the conversion. I know currency fluctuates, but based on the sources, what is that in sterling?
At the rates discussed in the sources, that converts to roughly 520 pounds to 865 pounds a month.
Wait, pause. 865 pounds a month.
For 80 hours of high-quality support, yeah.
That is staggering. That's less than my rent when I was a student.
If you annualize that, the year one total is approximately 10,880 pounds.
So let me get this straight. Scenario A was 54,787 pounds. Scenario B is 10,880 pounds.
The delta the saving is 43,907 in the first year alone.
That isn't just extra cash for a Christmas party. That isn't just nice to have.
No, for a startup, that is runway. That is 6 months of survival. That is the difference between making it to your next funding round or going bust. That is an entire marketing budget. That is product development.
That is incredible. I mean, I knew it would be cheaper, but I did not think it would be that much cheaper.
It's the combination of the high
100 hours a week. That's like 2.5 full-time people.
Exactly. So you are building a small team, maybe a developer, a marketing person, and an admin for the price of, well, less than a junior developer in London.
Yeah.
You're getting an entire department for the price of an intern in Digbeth.
So we've talked about cost, but usually when you cut cost that drastically, you pay for it in quality or efficiency. Let's talk about the efficiency multiplier.
Okay.
Because there is always this debate, and I'll play devil's advocate here. Does remote work kill productivity? I mean, if I can't shout at Dave across the desk, is Dave actually working?
It is the eternal debate.
Yeah.
The shouting at Dave management style. And the academic view is mixed, to be fair. There was a University of Chicago study of 10,000 IT professionals that showed hours worked went up, but output per hour dropped slightly due to what they called coordination costs.
The can you hear me tax, the let me share my screen tax.
Exactly. But that study was for complex, highly collaborative teams doing brand new innovation work. When you look at counter data from the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they found that in remote-heavy industries, productivity actually grew.
Why?
Because of lower unit costs and fewer distractions.
And for the specific roles we are talking about here, admin, operations, even some coding, these aren't necessarily roles that need 24/7 brainstorming in a conference room.
Correct. Administrative and operational roles often see enhanced productivity. Why? No commute. That's 2 hours a day of energy saved right there.
Good point.
And fewer office distractions. No, hey, do you have a minute? Interruptions every 15 minutes.
I would get so much more done if people stopped asking me if I had a minute. That breaks your flow state every single time.
Every time. And this leads to the multiplier effect. The argument is that one high-quality focused VA can outperform 2 distracted in-office employees because they're focused on the output, not the attendance.
Do we have any proof of this, or is it just nice theory?
We have testimonials. There's a guy, Jonathan Moser from Moo Living. He runs his property management business. He says that since the NIC changes in April, he runs entirely with 12 contractors and VAs.
Wow, 12.
He says he resisted taking on full-time staff, and his business is running better. He's more agile.
And what about Kate Allen from Finest Days?
She points out the operational ease. Her quote was, "No HR hassle, no holiday pay." It simplifies the management burden. She doesn't have to be a head of HR. She can just be a CEO.
And it's not just email, right? I think people hear VA and they think inbox zero. They think someone is just deleting spam all day. But the scope of work through VAConnect seems much broader.
Oh, much broader. They aren't just filing. You can hire executive assistants for inbox triage and calendar Tetris, sure. But you can also hire marketing assistants for content scheduling and social media strategy, sales assistants for lead gen and CRM management.
You mentioned engineers.
Yes. Python, React developers, project managers to coordinate distributed teams.
So you could effectively build an entire functional department.
You could. And here's the specialization argument, which I think is crucial. For the cost of that one UK generalist, that £4,000 plus per month total cost we calculated, you could hire 3 specialists through VAConnect.
3 for the price of 1.
You could get a marketing person, a salesperson, and an admin person for a total of maybe £1,800 a month.
That is a massive strategic advantage. Instead of one person trying to be okay at 3 things, and let's be honest, usually failing at 2 of them, you have 3 people who are experts at 1 thing each.
And you are still paying less than half the price. You have tripled your capability and halved your cost. That is the definition of leverage.
Okay, this sounds almost too good to be true. And when things sound too good to be true, I start looking for the catch. I start looking for the hidden trapdoor. Let's talk compliance, risk, and the what could go wrong section.
The boring but beautiful side of using contractors.
Why is it beautiful? Compliance is usually the most boring word in the English language.
Because here, compliance means freedom from liability. There is no UK employment law jurisdiction.
That's music to a founder's ears.
No statutory sick pay, no maternity leave calculations, no auto-enrollment pension, no employment tribunal risk.
That last one is big. The fear of being sued because you let someone go is real. In the UK, firing someone is a legal minefield.
It is a massive liability shield. When you use a B2B contract with a South African agency, you are buying a service. If the service isn't good, you cancel the contract. It's like canceling Netflix, not like divorcing a spouse.
And then there's cash flow. In the UK, HMRC has very strict deadlines.
You pay payroll taxes on the 22nd of the month. If your client hasn't paid you, too bad. HMRC gets paid. If you miss it, you get fined.
But with a VA agency.
It is B2B invoicing, flexible payment terms.
Yeah.
You are paying an invoice, not a payroll run. It gives you cash flow elasticity. You can negotiate terms. You can breathe.
Okay, but what about the skepticism? I'm a founder. I'm worried about my data. I'm building the next big thing. Is my data safe in South Africa, or am I just handing my IP over to strangers?
It is a valid concern. You should be paranoid about your data. But the rebuttal is strong. VAConnect operates on ISO 27001 infrastructure.
That's the gold standard for information security, right?
Yeah.
That's bank grade stuff.
It is, and they have strict NDAs. But think about the incentives. If a freelance VA steals your data, it's annoying. You might sue them, but they probably don't have any money.
Right.
But if a managed agency with a reputation to protect has a breach, they're out of business.
Their entire business model is trust.
Exactly. They have so much more to lose than a single employee does. Their survival depends on your security.
That's a good point. Institutional trust is a powerful motivator. What about the they don't know my business objection? It's easier to just shout across the room to Dave because Dave knows where the files are.
The shouting at Dave method of management again? It feels easier, but is it effective? The rebuttal here is that a new UK hire doesn't know your business either.
True.
If you hire a new Dave in Birmingham, he doesn't know where the files are. He doesn't know your customers. He's just as lost on day one.
He's just as lost, but he's physically closer.
But the difference is the VA from VAConnect arrives trained on the tools thanks to VA Varsity. So they already know how to use the CRM. They know how to use the project management software. They only need to learn the context of your business.
Whereas Dave might not know the tools or the context, you might have to teach Dave how to use Excel and who your clients are.
Exactly. The ramp-up time for the skilled VA is structurally shorter. And regarding cultural fit, we touched on this, but the video call bridges the gap. And because you are remote, you are forced to document your expectations.
Which you should be doing anyway.
Exactly. It forces better management habits. Documented processes are always better than lazy verbal chats. If you have to write it down, you clarify your own thinking. It makes you a better manager.
So pulling this all together, we are looking at a strategic shift. We need to stop thinking about this as cost-cutting. Cost-cutting sounds defensive. It sounds like you are losing.
That is the key takeaway. It is not about cheap labor. It is about intelligent capital deployment. It's an offensive move, not a defensive one.
I love that phrase, intelligent capital deployment.
Think about the opportunity cost. If a founder spends 15 hours a week on admin scheduling, email, travel booking, chasing invoices, that is 780 hours a year.
That's 20 full work weeks. That is almost half a year of their work time.
If that founder's time is worth just £100 an hour, and if you are the CEO, should be worth much more than that in terms of value creation, they are burning £78,000 of value on admin.
That is horrifying when you put it that way. You are effectively paying yourself £100 an hour to do a job you could pay someone £10 an hour to do.
Precisely. By hiring a VA to do that, they reclaim that £78,000 of potential value to spend on sales, on product, on growth. The return on investment isn't just the salary saved, it's the value created by the founder being freed up to do their actual job.
The gap between UK costs and SA costs is a chasm. It is a 70–80% savings.
My final verdict on this is that startups hiring locally out of habit, because that's how we've always done it, are choosing a 3–4x cost disadvantage. In a high-failure market where 90% of startups fail anyway, this is terminal.
You're choosing to make it harder.
You are starting the race with a backpack full of rocks. Why would you do that?
And the future of Digbeth.
The winners won't be the ones with the coolest offices or the best espresso machines. They will be the ones with the smartest resource allocation, the ones who realize that geography is a lever they can pull, the ones who built a distributed engine that runs lean and fast.
And VAConnect has a promise. Small enough to care, big enough to guarantee quality. It seems like they are trying to bridge that gap between the impersonal giant outsourcing farm where you are just a number and the risky freelancer who might disappear.
And the data suggests they are succeeding. The retention rates, the cost savings, the client happiness scores, it all points to a model that works for this specific economic moment.
So, here is the final provocation for you listening today. The question isn't, do VAs reduce costs? The math is undeniable. We've just proved it. The data says yes.
The question is something else.
The question is, are you willing to leave £40,000 on the table just because it feels safer to hire someone you can see?
That is the question. Comfort versus capital efficiency. Do you want to feel comfortable, or do you want to survive?
And in this economy, comfort is a very, very expensive luxury.
Indeed it is.
So, we want you to do a mental audit. Look at your spending, look at your admin, look at those spreadsheets, and ask yourself if you are passing the financial IQ test.
And if you aren't, maybe it is time to look south.
I think I'm going to go look at my own bank statements now. It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Always a pleasure. And hey, with the money we saved in this hypothetical scenario, the next flat white is on you.
Deal! I might even buy you a pastry. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.